Welcome to Parc Ferm, the Canadian Formula One podcast.
That's P3. Okay, mate.
Woo!
Purple.
Hey, he's got on the podium. Who would have thought?
We talk race reviews, news from the paddock, and bring you everything from the world of Formula One.
And something to limit the problem. And congratulations.
Well, change your car. You've got a problem. Change your fucking car.
And you change your car because Checo has been saying the car is fucked.
And now your hosts, Drew, Walker, Ed, and Tomas.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Parc Ferm, the Canadian Formula One podcast. We're back again. My name is Walker, and I'm here with Drew and Thomas, and we are recapping Hungary 2023. Boys, what is up?
What is going on? This is a global podcast today. I just want to put that out there. We got to get that on record.
This is true. We are representing 3 different countries, 2 continents, and I can't think of whatever else. But Thomas, as per usual, is coming to us live from the bunker. Drew is holding down Canadian Connection in Toronto, and today I'm coming from you from a bar in London. So there you go. We're committed to keeping this going. We're excited to be here. But enough about us. Let's talk about the race. Let's hear your impressions. Drew, you want to start us off?
Yeah, sure. The race was awesome. The first lap was unbelievable. We had let's start at the front. We had our homeboy, Lewis Hamilton, snagging a pole, willing that car on Saturday into first place, catching a pole by 3/1000ths of a second, which is realistically the exact same time as Max Verstappen. That car did not have the pace. He literally willed that past the line before Max. Anyways, that translates into a front row grid position, gets the right side, the clean side of the track, going into the lights out, and Lewis drops back to 4th place by the end of the second turn. He goes fighting in there with Max and loses out to Max, and he's so busy with Max that Lando squeezes in, and then he's so busy with Lando on the second turn that Piastri squeezes by him around the outside. It was unbelievable, and I think Lewis was could Lewis have gone in a little bit more aggressively and put the elbows out? Yeah, but I think he's smarter than that and didn't want to ruin his race and one of the other boys' race by crashing, because I think, he earned a little bit more track position than he was given. That being said, he was in 4th, from 1st to 4th by the end of the second turn. Let's move to kind of mid-back of the grid. We had Joe Granu with one of his best start. I would think it's his best start ever. And he had a software problem in his handles, or in his driving wheel. Yeah, and all of a sudden he was had to go into a weirder launch mode or whatever. So he lost 6 places off the start. Bottas behind him had to whip around him because he had to do. It was really just too bad, and that kind of just caused a chain reaction, because then Joe ended up flying down behind Bottas, wasn't able to get on the brakes enough, got in some dirty air. He kind of pops into the back of Bottas, who hits, I guess Gasly kind of came around, who popped up. His ass flew in the air. Then all of a sudden he landed on Ocon. Poor Alpine, double DNF in the first lap. What the fuck is going on with those guys? I feel so bad for them. Those guys they can't catch a break, because neither one of those guys deserved that. That was just pure circumstance. And our homeboy, Danny Rick, somehow gets involved with this shit, loses 6 or 7 places, totally he got absolutely screwed on this, kept his head together, and still finished the race in front of Yuki. So, I don't know. To me, it was one of the more exciting races of the year. It was great to see Danny Rick back. Good to see that he shook off the cobwebs very quickly, put together an absolutely stunning race for the car that he was in. And George and Hammy put together the best race that they could for where Mercedes is right now. But those boys from McLaren, that's the real deal. I know last week we were kind of well, are they going to, was this a really good upgrade, great track for them? We'll see what it looks like in Hungary. That car is the real deal.
Yeah, that was one of my follow-up questions is, looking at, a few back-to-back performances from McLaren right now, are they legit? It would seem so, but Thomas, what do you think?
This race was, well, as Drew put it, he knocked out basically all the points. Great quality. The race was good. Interesting start. Alfa Romeo, where did they come from, right? Where were they all this whole season? Same with Hamilton. When he was running lower and lower in fuel as the race went on, that Mercedes just came alive out of nowhere. Like, it was competing. Surprise, surprise. Max won again. Who would have thunk? Shame about Alpine double DNF, as Drew put it. First corner, both of them out. That's just some really, really shitty luck on their part. Overall, good race. Danny Rick, love it. He got screwed. As Drew said, kept it cool, outpaced Yuki, and basically, finished where he started. So that was, as a first race, I think that was a pretty solid performance from him. Feel bad for Alpha, how they kind of went down a little bit as the race went on, and McLaren, good job on them. Typical Ferrari fuck-ups, as we expected as well. And there was one other point I wanted to touch base. Oh yeah, Aston Martin, come on guys, wake up. Alonso doesn't talk about podiums anymore for the past couple of races. Come on, something's going on. You need to wake up.
I think that if Alonso said what he actually felt, he'd be shitting all over the car, and he would be shitting all over the team for the lack of upgrades, because everybody else is coming with absolute fire in their upgrades, and he knows that Papa Stroll would smack the shit out of him if he starts talking shit about the car. So I think he's just playing nicey nice and not saying anything, because he historically has been way more verbal about what he thinks about the car and the team and their ability or inability to put a competitive car together. And I truly don't think that he's speaking his mind, because he's absolutely afraid of Papa Stroll.
Mm-hmm. So
could be
that's
the case.
interesting that you're talking about. Speaking your mind, we've had the Ferrari boys, so Sainz and Leclerc, come out and kind of publicly state that they need Ferrari to make some moves, and they need them to bring some packages and bring some upgrades and just get their shit together. Going into the last race of the first half of the season, we're going into the break afterwards. I want to know from both of you, is Ferrari's season done?
Yes.
And by done, I mean no longer competing for wins. Maybe even like competing for maybe best of the rest. And by that, I mean, down there with the Astons at this point.
I think they're done. They're not going to be competing for wins anymore. They're just, in my eyes, they're so far behind. There's so many team fuck-ups. Some races are better than the others, but they seem all to be on different pages, and none of them seem to be like they're playing together as a team. So many back calls lately on them, and they're just not in it to win it anymore. They're just there. I think they want to get on the podium or want to get the 5th or the 6th or the 7th, but I think they're done. I think no chance.
I don't think they've had a time this year where the driver, the car, and the team have aligned longer than like a race. Like, they haven't strung together those three key parts. Like, one weekend the driver and the team will be together, and it's just one of those situations that, like, you just hope that if there is a problem, that it's maybe just driver related. Like, people are allowed to make mistakes. Like, shit happens at 300 kilometers an hour. Like, it just happens really quick, or sometimes it's not their fault or whatever. But, like, you can't fuck up strategy. Like, even why don't you just fucking copy someone else? Just be like, let's just do exactly what Alfa Romeo's doing. Like, just literally, you don't even have to think. It might not be the right strategy, but at least you're not going to fuck it up. Like, these guys literally every time, it's like, are you new? Like, every single time they just, like, I don't get it. Like, because I know they have a lot of money invested here. They have strategists, like a team. How do they not have, okay, well, if you pit on this lap and these are the tires, then if X plus Y equals, like, you just have, these things are done for you. Like, there's no way you go into a race and don't have all the scenarios figured out. And then your inability to communicate that strategy with the driver also blows my fucking mind. Those guys are busy. They're trying to go as fast as possible and not die. That's their fucking goal. They shouldn't have to think about what the strategy is. I think there should be some put on there because their feel on the car, their feel on the tires, that has to be factored in because it's their confidence ability. So like they have to feel confident with the tires underneath them. So like there has to be some version of their call. But ultimately, they're busy. Let the team make the decisions, team orders. Let's get that in there. Let's get the strategies on point. As I don't think the car's uncompetitive. I don't think that they've come with the same upgrades. I think that's the same issue that Aston Martin's having. But like when you have teams like Mercedes coming with it, Red Bull coming even further with it, and then now you have McLaren show up to bat. You know, we spoke earlier on in the podcast this year about, you know, them putting all their money in the wind tunnel, and they're putting all the money in all the time, and they put all their cards in that basket. And I think without that wind tunnel being finished, they have shown up to bat with those upgrades. They're absolutely looking spicy. And now you have these two young gun drivers with a little bit of confidence, that big dick energy right now. And I think they're the team to watch right now, hands down.
Yeah. So my take on Ferrari, I think we talked about this as well early in the season. It just doesn't seem to be any cohesion in the team. And right now it feels like everyone's just fighting for themselves. Like doesn't seem to be a lot of teamwork going on between the drivers, between, you know, the engineers, and now the fact that both the drivers are calling out the team a little bit saying, hey, we got to like get our shit together. And you know, I think there's a way to go about that where it lifts everybody and it brings the team up and things like that. But I don't get that same feeling from these statements. And one of the things that I think we can look out for Ferrari as we enter the break and coming out of it is, one, I think their single lap pace is still going to be competitive. I think they could still, you know, maybe pop up in the top 5, top 2 for some qualities. But I think when it comes down to, you know, the race pace and the strategy and the teamwork that's required to kind of really execute on those distances at those kind of events, I can't see them, you know, except for maybe a fluke here or there, but really I can't see them being consistently competitive. And I think unfortunately their team really might be done for the season, which leads me to my next question. We obviously know Red Bull right now is the number 1 team in the field. Who right now is your number 2 team overall?
I think Mercedes has been, I don't think they've been consistently the number 2 team, but they've been consistent. And that's what I'm going to put them at number 2. Like, I think Ferrari has been faster, but only for moments. I think Aston Martin has been faster, but only for moments. I think McLaren currently is faster, and we'll see how long that lasts. But Mercedes has been consistent, and they've been incrementally getting better and better and better. And I think Lewis is finally a little bit more confident in that car. I'd love to see George a little bit more confident in that car, because he doesn't seem to be complaining. And when it comes to race pace and over the entirety of a race, he seems to do very well. But I think his 1-lap pace for qualies is just not there right now. And I think that has a lot to do with the confidence of the car underneath him. But I think, quick answer, I think it's Mercedes right now.
For the time being, I'm kind of torn. I'm between Mercedes and Ferrari. It's funny because we just spoke shit about Ferrari, but for the time being, it's between those two. As Drew said it, Ferrari overall faster at moments than Mercedes, and but that's probably going to change very, very quickly, since, you know, McLaren is coming into play right now, and again, this is, you know, first couple races, so who knows how well they're going to do. Again, Mercedes, you know, is becoming more and more alive. So yeah, I'm torn between Merc and Ferrari's number 2 right now.
It's really interesting you brought Ferrari back into it. I'm just looking at the standings right now. So we have Red Bull in first with 452 points, which is obviously no surprise. Second with 223 is Mercedes. And then third, we have Aston with 184 and Ferrari with 167. So Mercedes has a pretty strong hold on second, with third place definitely up for grabs. I think what will be interesting is to see the point accumulation after the break to the end of the season. and really compare that. Mercedes has a decent lead because we look at McLaren right now and they're at 87. So you're about 150 points off of Mercedes. But it'll be interesting to see kind of at what pace they're collecting points post-break to see if McLaren can really keep that pace, or whether Mercedes can solidify that second place, or whether they've just built up too much of a buffer at this point where, they're still performing consistently enough to maintain that. But it'll be interesting to see.
You know what? Just with the numbers you'd mentioned right there, and I had seen them briefly, I think, at some point in time this week. I think Aston Martin would be doing much better if they had two cars in the fight. But the problem is that Alonso's the only guy getting points for them. With all due respect to Stroll, he's getting points, but they're always the super low points, 1-2 points in a race. And I think that, McLaren, even if they aren't getting on the podium every time, they are consistently going to be in the top 3, 4, 5. I think that Ferrari, and that's with both cars, because Piastri is doing absolutely awesome for a rookie. I've been forgetting that he's still a rookie. He's got half a season under his belt. Mm-hmm. And with the way that Formula One tests now, they don't have unlimited testing time. So, he's had a few more laps than what we've watched on TV. He doesn't have this, secret testing area. You know what I mean? So he is such an impressive young man. Moving on to Ferrari, even though Ferrari isn't getting up on the podiums consistently, both cars are still getting in the top 10. Both cars are still getting decent points. Same with Mercedes. That's where I think Aston Martin's fault's going to come in, is that Alonso was getting good points, but he was the only guy fighting in the fight.
So moving on, now that we've covered the race, the other thing that was a little different about this weekend was the qualifying format. So we had the typical 3 rounds, but a single type of tire confined to each round. So Q1 was the hard, Q2 was medium, Q3 was soft. It's supposed to create a little bit more equity, as well as obviously there's the environmental impact because they brought less tires and are using less tires across the weekend. How do we like the format? How do we like the results? Aside from the fact that we have a couple of Hamilton fans here and he snagged pole, but what did we think of this format? Thomas?
I think it's great. I like it. It's as you said it puts a little bit more diversity, I guess, in the tires in the qualifying for more interesting results. It gives the teams, I think, better data as well for what tires was the weather. So I'm hoping to see more of this format. Honestly, I found it to be entertaining and quite enjoyable to watch.
I loved it. I think it's showing a little bit more of the driver merit. Some apples to apples. Obviously cars are going to be better than the others, but there's no strategy based on tires. Everyone's on the same tires, so no one can say, oh, well, the softs this, and there's none of that. There's the same tires going into the race because now the qualies have burnt, softs, mediums, and hards for everybody, so there's none of that kind of going on. I enjoyed it. I thought it was really good to see. I loved the way, whatever. I guess the environmental impact is awesome. Whatever. Save the world, pave the world, whatever your views are on that. Could care less. But as far as racing and entertainment's concerned, I thought it was bang on. I think they're onto something with that, and I believe they're going to stick with it. I think there's some purists that might not love it, but fuck those guys.
So do you not feel that it removes a strategic element from the competition and from the qualifying and also from the race based on which tires people use? No.
I think qualies, everyone gets the same run or kick at the can, right? So as far as qualies are concerned, I think that's the way you should set up the grid, is based on driver merit. I think during the race, they still have to play out a strategy, right? Everyone goes into that race with similar tires based on what went on in quali, but they still have to play that race out with the strategy. Does it take away from the teams having to do 2 sets of strategies, one on Saturday, one on Sunday? Yes, 100%. But now we get to see 2 sets of races, one which is a strategy-based race and one which is fucking, are you good at driving? That's it. And
but why? So my question: why is homogenizing the tire use a better tell of what kind of driver you are? Because theoretically, any team going into qualifying is going to. They all have the option, right? Normally, they all have the option of what tires they're going to use. and whichever, and for the most part, they all have fairly similar tactics, right? There aren't a lot of cases where people are, really, if anything, they're using more softs than anything across the qualifying. But why is this a better tell of who is a better driver when the teams have the control of choosing which tire, which compound they want to use?
I think it just added a strategy element to it where the actual teams have to know which tires are going to get heated up in the race. Like Thomas had mentioned, it gives them an opportunity to kind of figure out what the softs, mediums, and hards do based on, I guess, whatever the temp and track temp and all that stuff looks like, the conditions look like on the Saturday, which might not be the same on Sunday, which might add another element of interest on the Sunday. However, I think just for the Saturday, it'll force the teams to set up their cars in order to, because like some of those cars heat up those hards a lot faster. Some of them heat up the mediums a lot faster, and some of them heat up the softs a lot faster. So I think there's a strategy involved in how they set up the cars and how much downforce goes into that. So they're adding just a whole new strategy element in a different way on the Saturday. And I think that's going to come into play a lot more if they continue with this strategy.
And do you think by that much focus being put on Saturday, maybe Thomas, you can chime in as well, that will then compromise the race on Sunday?
I don't know if it would compromise the race on Sunday, but we definitely would see more interesting results just by the effort and the focus they put on Saturday. So I think it would end up being a more interesting Grand Prix on Sunday doing this format, just because, again, whole different strategy that teams are kind of now forced to use and to pull the data from. So yeah.
So it got me to thinking about just Formula One in general and the competitiveness of the series and how Formula One is really structured and built. And a lot of it is obviously off of innovation and how different teams are innovating on their end. And there's budget caps that have been brought in to try and equalize things. But it made me think about, you have other series like maybe like an Indy or a NASCAR where the rules and the cars themselves, the engines, the aero, everything is much more homogenized, right? Everyone's kind of running the same equipment, very similar engine, similar spec, similar aero as well. At what point do you start losing that competitive nature in Formula One? Do you start taking away that strategic part of the sport that I think we all enjoy and we like to analyze in favor of a fair playing field by homogenizing the rules, i.e. in qualifying, or maybe in the future when they start to look at, I think in 2026, they said they were going to look at making some of the aero a little bit more universal across the teams to help from a budget perspective, also from a competitive perspective. How similar do we want these cars to be and these teams to operate versus where it is now and where it's been in the past, where it's, innovate, create, dominate. Thank you. You finished my last 8.
Yeah. You know what? I think there's room for both. And I think IndyCar does that very well, where they kind of base it on a spec model, but there's little parts that you can change that can make your car better and faster. Personally, I think Formula One's been heading in this direction since I started watching it in like 2014, 2015. They've been arguably kind of forcing it to this way anyway. I think they're trying to pull together the haves and the have-nots. You got your Mercedes from the domination they've been having in past years, and then you had like Haas and Williams at the same time, and they're pulling that back together. And kind of in this time, we've seen a shift happen from, Mercedes dominance to a Red Bull dominance, and that's fine, but I still think they're trying to close that gap. And I think that's what their ultimate goal is to kind of have something a little bit more fair. That's why they've brought in the salary cap. That's why they've brought in, certain elements like, changing up the way the qualies are done, because they're trying to do a little bit more apples to apples as far as driver and team merit versus who just has the most money to spend on the best stuff. That being said, I think there's still room for people and geniuses like Adrian Newey, still have team principals like Toto Wolff, who just have like these abilities within them to manage on Toto's side, to manage a team better, on Newey's side to, you know, aerodynamically create a car that's just better than other people's. Like, I think there's room for both. And then still add the element of the driver skill to come into play. There's room for all of it, and I don't disagree, because I think it's just more entertaining when you have 10 teams on the grid that 5 of them aren't fuck-off teams. Because, like, that's no fun. Really, you have 5 teams racing and then 5 teams just filling up the fucking screen on your television. That's how I was looking at it. And, like, that to me is not... Like, when you have 2 guys in a ring, that's awesome. But how sick was the fucking Royal Rumble? You know what I mean? When all 20 dudes were going hard to the paint. Like, that's the difference, right? So, like... Let's have it a little bit closer. Do I obviously want Mercedes to win? Yes. Do I want to see, like, one guy take it away for all fucking 23, 24 races? No, I don't. Like, every time, like, we've gotten to the point already where we're doing second, third, and fourth. We're not even counting first place. That's how shitty that is. Like, that's, I don't know, just my 2 cents.
I agree with what you said, Drew. I think I want them to be the F1 cars to be different enough, but I don't want them to be too different, because then there's no competition anymore. You know, we'll have stronger teams, we'll have weaker teams, and as you said, it's 5 shitty teams and 5 good teams. There is definitely room for improvement on both sides. Same thing. I think they could bring it maybe a little bit closer to spec, all these cars, so it'd be a bit maybe easier to challenge one another. But the same thing, you know, driver skills come into play, team skills come into play, engineering, all that stuff. So same thing. I'm gonna go with there is room for improvement as well on both sides.
Yeah, I'm a little torn, because I think I love, obviously you want to see competitive racing, right? That's, you know, I think it goes without saying, but I think there is also there's really a special, I don't know if this is the right word, but almost a clandestine kind of aura of Formula One, where you have people back at the factory, like, you know, really developing the newest, like the greatest shit, and they're kind of like spying on everyone else, but they're not, and it's very secretive and it's very technical, and I love that element of it as well, right? I don't want to lose that, because I think like the innovation and the tech and just the brilliance of the people that work in this sport and in this industry, cannot be understated. And I think when you talk about driver merit and driver skill, I think a big part of that is, you know, designing a car that works with the driver you have, right? And we'll talk about Lewis Hamilton this year, right? He's been critical of the car. And, you know, one of the key things he's pointed out in the past has been like his actual driving position, right? Where they've put the cockpit too far forward. So he feels like he can't like feel the back end of the car, and it's just the feeling is not there, right? And I think that's the perfect example of designing a car not for your number one driver, or not for one of your top drivers, because, you know, it just doesn't work for them for whatever reason. So I think, you know, within this design scheme and within, you know, being able to need the design and the tech that comes with it, I think, you know, when you get that plus the driver plus the personalities plus everything that goes into it, I think makes it really special. And when it works, and in the case of Red Bull, even though it's boring, you know, I think at some point we just have to say like, fuck, man, like they just either they're doing a really fucking good job cheating, or they are just like they fucking nailed it, right?
I think you're bang on with that. And when there's this much money involved, there will always be that element of like, let's hire the best people, the best guys in the factories, and let's spy on other people, innovating technologies. When there's that much money involved, no matter how close the spec cars get, there's always going to be a rule book and an Adrian Newey to read the rule book and figure out how to bend or fucking break the rules in order to get their car faster. Because that's ultimately what the goal is. And I do agree with you, Walker. I love that. Like, the fact that NASA, the space company, has to call up F1 and say, yo, what are you guys doing over there? You guys got some crazy shit going. That, to me, gets me fucking going. I love that stuff, because, like, that's how innovative they are. But that's also because there's fucking money involved. Mm-hmm. That's the deal. So, like, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I don't want to see that part go, because I love that part of it. But I also think that, like, competitive quote unquote more fair racing is also a good part of it too.
100%. So we're heading into the last race of the first half of the season. We got Belgium coming up in a few days, and I double checked. It's definitely coming up in a few days. One of my favorite tracks. Again, just one of these quintessential, motorsport racing tracks. Tons of history, just an amazing layout, elevation changes. What are we looking forward to seeing this coming weekend? And who do we see finishing? Let's give our predictions for the top. Let's do top four. Let's do top four. Let's include Max in this, perhaps.
All right.
Okay, so I
want to start this off.
Okay.
I love Spa. Fantastic, bro. Eau Rouge. This shit is my tits. I love it. Gets me hard. I'm fucking pumped just thinking about it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's do 4. We got Max, Lando. I want to see. I think Ferrari might have this. I think Ferrari's going to be up on there. Let's get Chuckles LaBuckles on third, and I'd love to see Hammy in fourth. Because I don't know, because we got a lot of straights. It's a fucking quick course, man. It's a quick course, and I don't know who's slippery enough. Let's go with Hammy in four, just because I want to see him there, not because I think he's going to get there.
That's kind of scary because I was basically going to say the same thing. Obviously, Max is going to be first. Second, I want to say Hamilton or Norris. So let's say, for this argument's sake, I'm going to say Hamilton. Third, I'm going to say Norris. Fourth, I'm going to say, let's go Piastri.
Whew. Whew. Okay, so let's just get this out of the way. Max is going to have a mechanical failure.
Ooh, we're getting into them here. Okay.
I don't know why.
You're right, Walker. I hope you're right, Walker, man. I'm hoping for that.
Too.
That car has been bulletproof. They broke the record, 12 straight wins. Guys, something's got to give. Something has got to give. This is the kind of course. It's long, lots of high-speed shit, easy to, who knows, drop a wheel. Maybe it's raining. I don't know. Max, mechanical failure. So he's out. First place, I'm going to get to Lando. I feel like he's had it coming. I think that's a quick McLaren. It's got some speed on the straights. I think Lando is going to get his first win of his career. Number 2, I'm going to go to Hamilton. I have to. I don't know. It's almost like I just have to. Whatever. Just anyone listening, just get over it. Number 3, I'm not going to say because it's not going to make sense. Number 3, let's go with George. I think Mercedes is going to have a strong weekend. And number 4, I want to see Albon. Ooh. Another quick car, lots of speed. I think they can bring it. A little bit of rain, who knows?
That's a bold prediction.
Lando, Hamilton, George. Because I think he needs a bit of a bounce back. And then Albon.
I want to point out that not one of us mentioned Checo.
Nope.
The poor fucker. The poor fucker's got the fastest car on the grid. We didn't even put him in a conversation. Oh, man. Okay,
no
let
faith,
me ask you guys,
man.
what do you guys
no
think
faith.
about? What do you think about Checo? Do you think last week was a bounce back?
No. I think he's
just no.
I think he's shook. I think he's just. I think his headspace is all wrong, and I think I mentioned this last week. I think he needs the break. I think he needs to clear his shit, go to fucking Puerto Vallarta or something like that, and have a margarita and just chill. And come back.
He needs to chill. He needs to leave Ferrari for a couple of weeks and just clear headspace. He needs to gain back some confidence, which
you mean Red Bull?
Other point, yes, that's what I mean, and that's exactly what I mean. And
I like how you realized you said Ferrari and didn't even correct yourself.
Yes.
You just went going with it.
Yes, yes, I know. I got that after. Yes, so he needs to get laid, get some confidence back, party, step away from Red Bull a little bit, and then hopefully come back strong.
Didn't go too well for him last time he partied.
No, it did not.
Nope. No, he should stay at home with the wife and kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go grocery shopping. Do
Go
some
grocery
normal
shopping.
shit. Humble
exactly.
yourself.
Play some, exactly. Play some golf. Okay, wonderful. Well, I'm excited for this race. But before we sign off for today, we have to play the most exciting game in the podcast land. It's Name That Sponsor. Last year we
Walker.
went...
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt you for a second. Are we seriously not going to talk about the podium finish, how Lando broke the trophy?
Oh, yeah, we can touch on that if you like.
I would love to touch on that because I
Please
have
do.
some strong words to say about that. Anyways,
Really?
Yes, really. The podium I have no problem with. All three guys deserve to be on there, but honestly, I was a bit shocked that Lando did his signature move or whatever you want to call it and knocked over Max's trophy, intentional or not, and how they laughed about it. It's good that Max laughed with him and they took it as a joke and everything. Me personally, I found that extremely disrespectful and rude, not only to Max, but the people that make the trophies. It's like, I think like 40 or 60,000 euros and takes half a year to make that trophy. So it's not just, some random piece of art or metal or anything like that. I was legit shocked and disappointed that it unfolded the way it unfolded.
I think you need to fucking give him a break, bro. You think he did that shit up? You were like spray farting on Lando's head like he fucking kicked it. Bro, he was popping his champagne. Everyone's having a time. He wasn't like, yo, fuck you, Max. Fuck your trophy. Boom. If he did that shit would have been hilarious. But he didn't. It was no intention. Yes. If you ask Lando, hey, man, do you want to break this trophy? He'd be like, no, dude, that's Max's trophy. He's a fucking good kid. He didn't mean to do it. I don't think it was disrespectful. I think your comment was more disrespectful than anything. But I also didn't go down a rabbit hole. I had no idea whose grandmother painted that trophy. I had no idea it took 17 small children to make it. And I don't know. I have no idea about the trophy. That was all news to me. But, like, as far as I'm concerned, he didn't mean to do it. And I love that, like, not only did, like, F1's social media light it up, Red Bulls lit it up, McLaren's lit it up. They were all making jokes about it. They were sending like fucking little memes of like super glue and shit. Dude, it was fucking, they made a joke out of it. If it all played out different, like he didn't mean to do it. I don't know. Fuck. Give him a break, dude.
You know what? No, I'm not going to give him a break.
To you, man. You gotta get out for air sometimes.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just old school, but just the whole laughing about it. And, obviously I wasn't there, so maybe they both found it funny. To me, that was disrespectful. And if I was in that place, whether it be Lando or Max, I would be, I would feel bad if I were to break it, intentional or not. And if I was Max, I wouldn't find that funny. Honestly, like it's kind of like a big, I guess kind of fuck you. It doesn't matter how much this trophy costs, and you're gonna get another one anyways. And I don't know. I'm old school, I guess.
Way to put a fucking mood on this fucking podcast on the way out, eh?
Right at the end.
God, you're making me soft, bro. That was the worst. You know what? In your defense, I'm glad we didn't start with that. Fuck.
You know what? I think if nothing else, it just makes for a really good story. That's gonna be in like that's gonna be like on Max's shelf or in like the Red Bull HQ or whatever. It's gonna be sitting there in two pieces, and
it'll be something that like our kids will watch this fucking race back. Actually, no one will because it wasn't that entertaining of a race. But like, I just mean like it'll go down as like a piece of a moment. Like when Danny Rick's doing the shoeies, and you know what I mean? Like it's a moment in Formula One history. If he kicked it out of like anger, like some Kimi Räikkönen shit, we'd have a whole different conversation. I would agree with you 1,000%. But like he popped the champagne, it happened to be a little too close. The little podium bounced. Maybe we should get mad at the Hungarians for not building a fucking sturdy enough podium. The shit's falling off. Let's get really real. Let's get mad at people.
So I have a question then. So two thoughts actually. So I feel like that champagne pop is like the new shoey. I feel like that's like the new like signature move on the podium. Secondly, how would you feel, Thomas, if it was Max who popped that champagne, broke his own trophy, and then went on to not give a fuck?
Great question, Walker.
You know what?
Thank you, Drew.
I shut up, Drew. I would not feel bad for Max breaking his own trophy, but I would still feel bad, I guess, for people that made the trophy, just because it takes a lot of time and effort. In regards to that aspect, I would be not happy with it. Again, maybe I'm just being a sensitive crybaby or whatever.
Definitely.
But those are
That's 100% what's happening. Yep, absolutely. Does your grandmother paint Lithuanian fucking like pottery? Like what?
No,
why is this
no,
fucking thing so special to you, bro?
I just have old school values, and I just think that's disrespectful to those people that make it. And that's my view on it.
And I agree, but it wasn't intentional. Shit happens, bro. Like, what about fucking Ocon and Gasly, who just spent £2.5 million in fucking repairs, bro? Those guys just spent dollars on repairs. What about all the engineers that were fucking building these carbon fiber parts? You don't give a fuck about. You don't care about that.
I don't care about that. No, that's right. Trophy's more important.
Oh my goodness. It was anyways, whatever.
I know it was unintentional. That's not the point. Anyways, let's forget
Well,
about
you
this. Moving on.
said it was no, because you said at the very beginning you said it was intentional. Like you alluded to that Lando did it on purpose. Second question, follow up question. If it wasn't hand painted by 60 nuns, would this bother you as much? If it was just like a standard like glass trophy, like something that was like picked up from like Keyman Engravables. Shout out to Keyman Engravables for those of you who get the reference.
So let me backtrack a bit. If I said it was intentional, maybe I saw it that way as intentional. If it's not intentional, then we'll leave it as not intentional for the time being. Okay. Second of all, if it's, let's say, metal trophy or whatever, and it didn't break, or
it did break. It break. It was just like a shitty metal glass trophy. It fucking snapped.
that metal.
Well, there's a lot of like things too. Let's say this trophy, like 500 people worked on it, or whatever. I don't know how I would feel. Okay, I don't know. You call me.
Fuck your
I don't know.
trophy.
Yes, I probably feel bad.
So is it the 60 people, or is it just the fact that like someone worked on it?
I think as a human aspect, I can't even continue.
9 people painted it.
Would you care?
Yes, I would still
It's
care.
the fact that
Yes.
60. Oh,
You guys are dicks.
Okay, let's get this back on track. I'm losing my shit here.
All right.
Trophy. Hey, where do you live? Send me your address, bro. I'm gonna get you some super glue in the mail, dog. Don't even worry about the duties. I'll pay them. This is gold.
All right. Well, I'm glad we were able to cover that topic as well. And now to end the episode, let's get back to the world's fastest growing game show, favorite game show. I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore. Guess that sponsor.
Name that sponsor. Name that sponsor.
Thank you for the intro music. So, as we all know, I've scoured Formula One cars for 2 sponsors, and Drew and Thomas's job is to name that car, name the team, and tell me what that company does. Last week, I think we went 2 for 2. Last week was a good week, but there were definitely a couple of softballs. This week, we're going to try and make it a little bit tougher.
Okay, and the
buzzers.
His
Okay,
is
go,
Drew. Trophy. He's got
I was gonna-
trophy.
Okay, he can be a trophy. Drew, you can be none.
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 Fucking go with this.
Okay. So the first one we have is Orlin.
Trophy.
Thomas.
Alfa Romeo, and fuel or gas or petroleum, something like that, with oil refinery.
We'll give that to you. It's crude gas refining, blah, blah, blah. Apparently, they're really big in Lithuania.
Yeah, there is gas stations here, Orlin gas stations as well, yeah.
Well, there you go. I did that one for you.
I was gonna say there's got to be some sort of fucking bias on that one. You're picking Lithuanian gas stations as a sponsor. This fucking hell.
Got to give him something to calm him down.
I know, man. Fuck, let's get him a trophy.
Oh, not.
Trophy. You win. Okay. Next one, our second sponsor for the day. I don't actually know how to pronounce this properly, so I'm going to try it a couple of times. MapFree. MapFree. MAPRFE. Because I don't really know how to spell it or pronounce it. MAPFRE. MapFree.
Trophy. I'm gonna take a random guess on this. Based on the name, something with maps, navigation, satellite, something like that. Location. For car, I'm gonna say, or team, I'm gonna say, totally out of the blue. Williams.
Well, you're wrong on both counts.
I'm gonna take a shot at this one. Let's go with logistics, of course.
Yeah.
And let's put it on an Alpine. At least give me a half point.
A fallback. Alpine, half point. There you go.
I said, whoop, there.
Not logistics. It is insurance products.
Oh, God. I was
Global insurance products.
Fuck.
So there you go. I don't even know how to pronounce it, but MapFree. MapFree? Oh boy. Okay, well, that has been another episode of Parc Ferm, the Canadian Formula One podcast. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for listening. Thanks to staying with us through this entire episode.
Give us a trophy.
Yeah, you get a trophy if you're still listening. Thomas,
get this guy some fucking super glue. Jesus.
Thomas is going to send you something, so get excited. But as per usual, you know the drill. Rate, subscribe, tell your friends, hit us up in the Discord server. Links are all below, and we'll chat with you next time.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys.
Okay.